And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone and Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. We're a day late, but it gave us plenty of extra headlines to talk about here in the NFL. We're going to talk a little bit about Week 10, but there's certainly a lot that we have to get to with Anthony Richardson. Of course, Aaron Rodgers, Stephon Diggs, done for the year, which is brutal. But before we get to that, Sean, if fans of the show want to go and make money off of betting against the Texans or the Colts or the Jets for that matter, where can they go do it?
Oh, Joe, I am glad to incorporate a Bet Online live line right now, as Thursday Night Football is the Texans versus the Jets. And right now, the Houston Texans are underdogs against the New York Jets. They are plus money at plus 110 on the money line, and they're getting 2 points versus the 2-6 New York Jets. I know this line is probably going to change before we do our best bets show this week, but this is money. This is legitimate, a good bet. I can't tell you. I don't think I could find anybody that would tell me, oh yeah, I don't like that line. And if you're going to take it, you're going to do it at Bet Online. They have you covered with all the best odds, like the one I just rattled off for you. Just nice and naturally perfect line as soon as I pull up the site this season. Every game matters. Bet Online, they got every stat, matchup breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the games. And it's not just basketball that's back, but we still got some baseball. NHL is back if you like the hockey. But football is mainly what we're betting on during this show.
The hockey.
I prefer the hockey. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here.
Before we get into the headlines, let's start off with recapping the biggest things that happened in week 10. What week are we on?
Week 8, pal.
Oh, jeez. I have no idea what year it is, what day it is, where I'm living at the current moment. Week 8, the biggest action that happened in Week 8, the Patriots were able to knock off the New York Jets. Drake May goes down 25-22, but all I can focus on, Sean, instead of talking about holistically the issue with the Jets and if there's anything positive for the Patriots, no, our focus has to go to Aaron Rodgers, who goes 17 for 28, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And why I'm so hyper-focused on this loser Aaron Rodgers, I'm so sick of him, man. I'm so sick of this tall tale, this lie that we were sold, this snake oil salesman that is Aaron Rodgers, where he's clearly done. He's clearly not anywhere near the same level of dominant takeover player that he once was. He played like crap, and he's played like crap through this stretch, and during this period of time has blamed it on everybody else. It gets even more ridiculous when we point to the statements that he's made in various press conferences as he tried to act all important and mighty with his language. Last week, he dropped a fantastic quote saying, thankfully, we're not to the denouement of the season. There's still a lot of time left. It's important that we all stay as sanguine as possible. So this guy can't even take his own self seriously. He can't just promptly deliver a message, get in and get out. It always has to be about boosting his own ego while dragging down his teammates. On top of this, after the game, one of the comments that he had, I've been in the darkness. You've got to go in there and make peace with it. This loser, Aaron Rodgers, cannot just be normal. He can't. And we keep trying to this point, Sean, figuring out what the problem is for the Jets and why things haven't gone right for them. Is it Saleh? Is it their defense? It's clearly the man that is drawing all of the focus, that is a plague in the locker room, that is dragging everybody else down around with him. He is not that same guy that leads his team and saves his team and carries them. He's not, which means he needs to be a better leader than he is a quarterback. Peyton Manning in his final year, when he won the Super Bowl, could barely play the position. to the point where he didn't play part of the year. But what did he do? He played to the role. He was a great leader. That defense carried him. They won the Super Bowl. This team could have been that. And Aaron Rodgers can move and play better than that version of Peyton Manning. But instead, it's like watching an episode of Desperate Housewives with the amount of drama and loser behavior from Aaron Rodgers. This stinks because he is truly a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he chose to allow this to turn into a circus. It's so pathetic that this Jets organization, one, sold everything essentially and allowed him to take control, full control at the end of his career. And now they're back at square one, drafting a quarterback in the top 10. Good luck convincing Deion Sanders that you're going to be able to get, good luck convincing Deion Sanders to let Shedeur Sanders come play for you.
Yeah, this isn't the RELAX Aaron Rodgers that we're seeing that, hey, just be patient. All we got to do is run the table. He can't run the table anymore. I am going to take some part of the blame here because I don't think I noted enough last year how this was going to go when we saw 3 weeks removed from his Achilles injury. He was taking all the attention in the pregame warmups, throwing the ball around, where he was just removed and everyone was talking, oh, he's just a freak athlete that recovers crazy. And he's got this Western medicine that is just his rehab and all this. No. I personally should have known then that this year was going to be a disaster because this dude just likes the attention. He likes being a weirdo. And here's the thing. We're very fair as American sports fans to accepting weirdos as long as they're good. If you're bad, you get no slack. You get nothing from us. But if you're good, see Caleb Williams, see Ryan Williams with the nail painting. It rubs some people the wrong way. I can't say that I love it. But if you're talented and you can pull it off, who am I going to say that you're not that dude that can do it? All right. That is the leeway you get if you want to be a weirdo. You want to talk about the T.O. antics? Okay. T.O.'s a first ballot Hall of Famer wide receiver. You could talk about all these guys that you may have had an issue with the character or how they approach the game. But at their prime, you couldn't deny that the weirdness at least was equatable to the talent. Right now, Aaron Rodgers is just being weird. He's not doing what he needs to do. He doesn't look excited about football. He always looks like who's the Basset Hound with the real sleepy eyes. Regardless, his old cartoon. He always looks mopey.
I'm not gonna.
It's really a bad look for a quarterback for the Jets. That is not elevating this Jets team, who just recently smoked this Patriots team, where we were all sitting here thinking, wow, the Jets figured it out because they worked this Patriots team. And since then, did they get worse, Joe? Or did they add Devontae Adams? Oh, they added Devontae Adams and they lost to the Patriots. There's no one else I can blame. I'm tired of the Salah memes. Oh, maybe it wasn't Salah's fault. No, it's Aaron Rodgers' fault. He's not playing well. He's playing poorly.
Yeah, it really sucks for Salah that he got dragged down with all this. And the stupidest part is that he doesn't have the self-awareness to realize that he's under a far larger microscope than he ever was when he was in Wisconsin. I know that Packers fans at times can be quite aggressive, but they're much friendlier than New York fans, especially when they all thought that they were going to win a Super Bowl. When you came in, stepped in the door, just a pathetic situation. And I have no idea where they turn. This defense is going to age itself out before that, that window is going to close. There's obviously young pieces, but the window's closing. It's going to be done. And now you just got to hope the next guy that you draft is going to be willing to suit up, because there has been no track record of success in decades for that position. Now, shockingly, a team that has a track record of success, we were all low on coming into the year. Well, they're in the driver's seat, possibly in the AFC. A big question that's being asked today, and I think it's a very legitimate one. This is not just a first take question. Can the Steelers legitimately contend to win the AFC? I'm not saying at this current moment, do they go to the Super Bowl and win the AFC Championship game? But could they be the 1 seed? Could they be the best team at the end of the year? I saw exactly that against the Giants on Sunday night on Monday Night Football, rather. I saw a team that Russell Wilson has been playing better than Justin Fields. They played strong enough and good enough offensively that it allowed their defense to take over and completely win the football game. It's all perfectly summed up with the way that defense was able to create multiple big turnovers on final drives to get the ball back and to completely close it out. We're not going to sit here and gripe and yell about Daniel Jones, as I do plenty of times.
He should have been better.
But no shit, obviously. I don't think anyone with eyeballs would have the opposite take. Now, I still continue to see people making excuses for Daniel Jones, which is insane to me.
They should be institutionalized.
Yeah, probably. The point is that the Steelers team not only has arguably maybe the best defense in the NFL, if not a top 5 defense, they additionally now have some sort of offensive production and potency that where if they're going up against, let's call it what it is, a really talented top 7 defense in the Giants defense, and you're still able to score and finish drives, it is very recognizable and deserves more hype.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about this Steelers squad because Arthur Smith, as many gripes as I have about him, he knows how to draw up a run scheme, and it's starting to take place in Pittsburgh. Najee Harris, 3 straight 100-yard games, albeit against the Raiders, the Jets, and the Giants. I'm not taking full stock into this. Trust me, I've seen it. He can run the ball against bad teams. He will do that. And I like that Najee Harris is stepping up to the occasion and looking like the first-round running back that he was drafted as a couple of years ago. It's good. Russell Wilson, better than expected. 542 yards in his first 2 games, three touchdowns, and a 63 completion percentage. That's pretty good. I like the way his deep ball looked against the Giants and the scales that they're putting out there. But it's still the Giants. I'm not completely bought into the Steelers, but this is what the Steelers do. They beat the bad teams. How does Tomlin always get? How does he not have a losing season? How could that be possible? Because he knows how to beat the bad teams, and he always has teams that are good enough to stomp out the victims of the NFL, a la the Raiders, Jets, and Giants. So I think that we will really see what the Steelers team is made of when we start seeing them compete with the Bengals and we start seeing them compete with the Ravens. The Browns also with Jameis could make it really interesting to see what the mettle is of this team, but to see them trending in this direction throughout the year is very, very good.
Very good to see the direction that the Commanders are trending in. And of course, the way that they finished against the Bears is something that is not going to be consistently replicable, but it feels like this Commanders team and Jane Daniels, they just have the juice. They've got luck on their side. They've got momentum in their hands. The Hail Mary play that they had everybody's attention. I think the best part about this, there were so many videos of Washington fans that you can tell for years, like older Washington fans in their 50s and 60s that were just depressed and sick of it, that were so excited and happy to see the result of that game and to be cheering and saying, we finally have a quarterback. We finally have somebody that can go and make these unreal, unexpected plays and help us win. That's my only main takeaway from this. I would love to see more matchups between Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels because I think it's good theater. But outside of that, Jane Daniels continues to elevate this Commanders team. And also, Jerjon Newton had a coming out party, man. He wrecked house in the interior. Somebody who many Commanders fans, many even asked me, I did some appearances right after the draft, were saying, why would we take this guy? Well, the game that he had against the Bears is a big reason why you took him, because he can be a demolishing force in the interior.
Yeah, this was a much-needed win for Washington. The fans haven't seen a Hail Mary go down like this in their favor in a long while. They haven't seen a team that is on the brink of defeat after a brutal pass interference in the end zone. Let the Bears just walk it on in. Okay. All right. Thanks for buying the tickets, everybody. It's going to be 2 hours getting home. That's the story that Redskins fans, Washington football team fans, Commanders fans have had to deal with for a long time. And to have one go your way, it just feels good. It also feels good to know that you got to be on the right side of history for once with some of the nuances on that final play, where previously it had been Dwayne Haskins taking selfies with the crowd, a distraction, and you have all these other things that go down with the team. But instead, it's Tyreek Stevenson who is taunting the crowd and chirping it up while the ball is in the air. And personally, I don't even know if I was in the locker room exactly what I would say to him, because you have to imagine he knows it already, and he knows even if it wasn't totally on him, even if it wasn't, there's no one else that's going to receive the blame. So as low as he is feeling, How do you even approach that, dude, aside from, are you kidding me?
Well, that's my whole thing on this. I might be one of the few people that isn't completely essing on him and crapping all over him. I think that he is just being delivered the blame because not many people are understanding of what it means big picture. Stevenson, Tyreek Stevenson, you shouldn't be talking crap to the fans. I actually don't hate when players do that. Coaches shouldn't be doing it. We admonished Sirianni for him doing it, which was completely justified. But for Stevenson and these players, like some of my favorite videos, there's the one Jets defensive lineman who was going to point at people and saying, F you. That's funny. Like, do it. Go ahead. I don't mind. Like, I think if you think you're going to win the game, earn it. But the problem is, not only is he not paying attention, he immediately steps in and is ready to go as soon as the ball snaps. So you got to give him credit that, like, everybody immediately assumed not focused. He's done.
Mean? They were at the third. The receivers were at the 30 by the time he turned around.
He was already in the end zone. It's not like he didn't know what was going to happen. But the whole issue. Wait, hold on. The issue with the play obviously is not having the right mindset. It's an overall lack of execution by the defense and lack of preparation that they weren't prepared for that situation. That's what it comes down to me. It's the whole defense. It's not just him. It's not just the singular guy. His guy didn't catch the ball. A jump ball situation is not a single player's responsibility.
A lot of
people,
people,
the whole group.
A lot of people were noting. I can't confirm if it actually happened. They weren't in the huddle. Obviously, also by the way, a lot of people were noting that like Noah Brown was his guy to cover. Okay, if you thought
it's not a man-on-man situation.
Yeah.
That's a total that's a non-ball knowing take. If anyone, I'm praying that smart individuals were not having that take. It is a Hail Mary. There was I was listening to Move the Sticks, and they were talking about Rhett Lewis was talking about how when he was on the NFL channel on Sirius, and Logan Ryan was explaining how defenses prepare for that situation, how like apparently Belichick would have one player whose responsibility was solely just to jump, and everybody else wasn't allowed to jump because if every idiot jumps, then everybody bats the ball into the air.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, it looked like the whole play, lack of execution. And more importantly, there is not a, he has this man, he has that man. That's how you lose in those situations. Defenses don't coach it that way.
Yeah, you shouldn't go man on a Hail Mary. I also started to side with the idea you shouldn't go 3-man rush on a Hail Mary. I think bringing 5 is fine with me. I saw it. That's actually
someone tweeted that out, and I forget who it was.
I'm sure it was like Coleman or Sharp or someone like that just had the film because
somebody posted the film. It was a 5-man rush, and the pocket immediately collapsed.
I think it was in the Colts game where they sent the house at the end of it, and Richardson took that sack.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't Richardson. It was somebody else.
Well, that happened with Richardson also on his final play. And maybe I'm siding with that. All right. How many people do you really need jumping up, just getting in the mesh and just getting caught up in the mix?
Because it takes too long for the ball to carry that far and for a quarterback to be able to have a stance to throw it. I really do think that you should start to send pressure in those situations. It's one of those dumb age-old things where it's naturally accepted to handle it that way. And there's other ways to go about it. Until now, it feels like nobody's try to approach it that way.
My biggest pet peeve with a defense when an offense is running a 2-minute drill or a 1-minute drill trying to move it down the field is that first play when they only got 3 down on the line. I want them bringing the heat on that first play because a sack on that first down when you're trying to move that ball down the field, get a positive play on that first play, it crushes everything about the drive. It destroys you. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm sending the heat on play 1. Maybe play 2, we drop into a nice zone, hold them to 6 yards, send the heat again, send the heat. Because these quarterbacks, they're good, but in these last-minute situations, a lot of the stuff happens. Why is Rodgers the Hail Mary God? Because he scrambles and makes what would be a 5-second play into a 15-second play and has the ability for everyone to get lined up. So it's starting to become more and more clear that you need to rush the quarterback on Hail Marys.
Now, Sean, I'm shocked that the Browns finally won a game now that Jameis Winston's the starting quarterback. Him not being in the lineup last week was really odd. They beat the Ravens of all teams. This is not a situation where they came along and beat the Titans. No, they beat possibly the best team in their division, one of the best teams in the NFL, 29-24, 38-yard touchdown to Cedric Tillman was a final key play for them to help them win this football game. Jameis Winston, I really truly think, and this is something that we have said often on this show, puts this team in a position to win. I don't think that we can sit here confidently after 1 week because they beat the Ravens, because one could argue, is this just one of those games where unexpected outcome?
Yeah.
But I do think that the Browns could be in a position with how good their defense is and Jameis's reckless abandonment, which is probably the best way to describe it. He's aggressive. They've got nothing to lose. You need to have somebody who's going to play that way, who's the polar opposite of this overprotectiveness that Deshaun Watson had. Be reckless, take shots, be risky. That's Jameis, and it paid off in this game. And I'm happy for him. I have been one of Jameis's biggest supporters for getting another opportunity. And he continues, if he has a good season this year, continues to remind us that things are not always done for a young quarterback after 3 bad years in the NFL. There is always going to be room for redemption if you're in the right situation.
Yeah, happy for Jameis. The Cleveland Browns shouldn't be 2-6. The Cleveland Browns should be 4-4 with Jameis Winston as the starter of the whole season. And that's me being rather conservative with the wins, because they've had many opportunities with a really bad quarterback at the helm. And with Jameis, who at his worst is an average quarterback, would have had them in more games and would have had more wins for this team. It's great. He's a gunslinger. He's exciting. He's fun. He's good for the sport. I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's a great leader. And the Baltimore Ravens were last week what I was deeming maybe the best team in football, just with their dismantlements. But we know that they have a tendency to drop a weird one. They were in the mix with the Cowboys earlier in the season, like a 1-score game, and we're letting them climb back in it, which that looks more and more embarrassing by the week. But Cleveland getting this win is huge. I think they're the exact opposite of the Jets, and the Jets are 2-6. I don't see any light at the end of this tunnel. Cleveland, the AFC is weak at the bottom. It's very weak. Start stringing some wins together. If they can put together an 8-9 season, there's a realistic chance that they make the playoffs. I truly believe that. Just go 6-3, pal, and you're in it. No questions. You really got a shot to make these playoffs. They have the running game. I like the Chubb's back.
They would need to be a little better than 6-3
over the remainder of the season.
Because then they would finish.
That'd be 8-9.
God, that would be really
AFC.
I think 9-8 would probably be 8-9. Just feels a little too.
I got you, but the Chargers don't have a stellar record. Who else is middling? The Bengals can't get out of their own way. The AFC South is going to be a 1-team conference with the Texans. AFC East, likely the Dolphins are done. Patriots are done. And then it's the Bills are going to be a 1-teamer. So, yeah, I really do think that if the Cleveland Browns just start winning some more games and they're losing, then they make the playoffs.
All right, let's see if we can have a cordial, concise conversation about this. I do not have faith that we will. Anthony Richardson, it was announced, was benched after a very poor performance. There was the whole controversial situation where he pulled himself out of the game because he was tired and out of breath, as he described it. He's been benched. Joe Flacco will start, which is the right decision, with a 4-4 record in a position to go to the playoffs. This team is good. Anthony Richardson was not playing good enough. I still stand by a number of things, and this applies to the Bryce Young conversation that we had weeks ago. One, it's really lame for new coaches to draft young players and to have this short of a leash for them. I know that he's been around for 2 seasons, but he's only started 10 games, I believe. To not have the patience to allow a young player to grow, it bothers the hell out of me. But the bigger problem that I think that this fills and plays to is that there are just so many teams in the NFL that don't know how and are unwilling to create patient, confidence-building situations for young quarterbacks. And this is what happened with Anthony Richardson. Everything just got worse and worse on a week-to-week basis. The decision-making crumbled. And when your decision-making crumbles and you're playing bad, you revert back to your bad mechanics of when you were playing your worst. It's something that happens with every single position, and especially with such a technically specific position like that of a quarterback. But I just think that for him, we are reminded that guys that haven't played a lot in college, first of all, those guys should not declare. They should stay back. Agents, scouts should recommend that those players return to school. The guys that are succeeding and often succeed the earliest are the ones that have played the most. The guys that fit into the category of projects that have gone on to start and be fantastic players in their careers, and I'm talking about Josh Allen, Jordan Love, and Patrick Mahomes, who fit into that project, needed a year to sit bucket. Those three guys, all three of them, they played a ton in college, played a ton of games, had a ton of snaps, had a ton of experience. Anthony Richardson was extremely green. There is, and my whole point with what I'm trying to say here, I think it is too early. It is way too early. And I'm sure that this is going to bother you and others to assume that his career is done. I think it is way too soon to think that this is over. There's no way to reclaim this. There's no way for it to be fixed. Because we're seeing across the NFL guys that came out early that had the traits like Sam Darnold, like Geno Smith, that later on in their careers, they were able to find success. And Jameis Winston might be the next example of that if things go well with the Browns. All I'm just trying to paint here is that his career is not over. There's plenty of time for him to get fixed. There's plenty of time for him to regain confidence, but he should sit. He should sit for maybe a season or longer, like he should have done from the jump.
I don't think that's unfair. I almost don't even agree with benching him right now at this point of the season because he basically did sit his first year. Well, it do be to injury. He played 4 games and he was injured and he had that first year to sit. I think that's due in part to a lot of the criticism of why he hasn't been really performing that well this year is because he didn't have a lot of games last year. And my biggest issue with the Anthony Richardson situation goes back to what I said last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember exactly. Where it's not Anthony Richardson's fault that he was drafted number 4 overall. It's not. It was a selfish decision by the Colts to try to buy themselves 3 more years of their job. That's what it was. It's the same thing that happened in San Francisco with Trey Lance, and GMs would have been fired if they didn't find Brock Purdy. We're taking a shot on this quarterback, so you give us time, and we're going to promise you that he's going to be a Pro Bowler. Just give us some more time. Extend us. No, he was not a top 10 pick coming out of college. I didn't agree with him even necessarily going in the first round. I really didn't, because if Lamar Jackson was drafted 30th overall, and Anthony Richardson is drafted number 4 overall, then we have a legitimate and almost possibly corrupt quarterback evaluation system in the NFL.
I don't think those things are related.
I would say they're more related than you would hope that they would be, because coming out of college, if we're analyzing athletic dynamic quarterback traits and sets, then they would be in the same bucket of the 99.9 percentile.
Well, but I would argue if Anthony Richardson happens after, would that not be the NFL realizing, hey, we can't miss on a guy like this again and overthink it?
Yeah, but that's their blind arrogance and thinking that everyone's going to be Lamar Jackson, and then they could just not have to do the full analyzation, saying Anthony Richardson was not a winner in college, which I don't like. I like quarterbacks that win in college. It's not a quarterback stat. I will concede that. You need a full 22 to 28 to win a football game.
Well, and also I think that Lamar Jackson's actually a good parallel for this because Lamar Jackson didn't start right away, and then he started at the end of the season and finished the year. And he also, for his first, especially that first season, he wasn't good. He was not good. He was
better than
runner.
This. He was leagues better than this. He was. And then that second year.
Obviously it doesn't require much to be leagues better than this because he's statistically one of the worst quarterbacks ever.
Yeah. And I'm not going to knock on all the statistics. I'm not going to knock on the incredibly low completion percentage. It is what it is. It's just a lot of bad optics for Anthony Richardson. I really did not like seeing him take himself out of the game. And I think Damian Woody got a lot of credit on social media for his takes on this as a former offensive lineman. He should continue to get the credit because for the big boys up front, whose job it is to protect the quarterback, for Bradley Bozeman laying out defensive linemen if they think that they're trying to get a leg on Justin Herbert, those guys who take it personally if their quarterbacks go down. If the quarterback is just leaving the game because he's gassed, that's BS. That's weak, and I think that's more the reason why they benched him than it was for his poor play. Because the Colts being 4-4, maybe Joe Flacco brings them to the playoffs, maybe. But if they're realistic, they know they're not going to win a playoff game. They don't have the offense for it. The wide receivers can't catch the ball enough. I've seen the clips. I've seen the thread. I know that Josh Downs had some drops and Michael Pittman Jr. had some drops. I'm aware of it. But realistically, let the kid take his lumps. He's going to be god awful. He's going to be real bad this year. But if you want to really know if you have that kind of quarterback in him, you have to let him go out there and try it. If he kills his confidence, it kills his confidence, and that's the way of the beast. But right now, I don't know if sitting behind Joe Flacco resurrects him. I think it really is a live bullets type situation where he needs to go out there and be awful.
But that last part is where I lose you, is because, and that was a lot of the arguments that I heard from folks when he was getting drafted, like, oh, just let him go out there and be an athlete. I have so many problems with that because I don't think that naturally produces the right result. Playing a ton in college is beneficial because you're so much of a better athlete and a better decision maker than everybody you're going up against. But we're seeing a guy whose confidence is slowly diminishing because he's not playing well. So the more that you play him, the more that his confidence craters to the point where there's no way to rebuild it. It's done. It's dead if he continues to play as bad as he does. I think if I'm the Colts, I think that they need to make an effort. Maybe, but actually, if Joe Flacco plays well enough, I'd keep him in there. And this offseason, I'd make an effort to go and get somebody. I think that the Vikings are probably going to be smart enough to realize, hey, we shouldn't rush JJ McCarthy out there if he doesn't look ready in practice. We should just roll with Sam Darnold. We'll keep extending him and kicking him down the road. But if you can go get your own version of Sam Darnold to start for the next year and let Anthony Richardson figure it out, that is what's going to be best for him. My whole main point with this, and it happens with the Zach Wilsons of the world, it happens with so many quarterbacks out there that after 3 years, there's this impatience and this alarm that's being pulled and total freak out that we got to get rid of this guy and we have to start over. That's not the way to do it. The way is let the guy catch his freaking breath, literally as he pulled himself out of the game to catch his breath, wait till the last year of his contract and then make that decision. I just think that this is the vicious cycle that we end up with all these teams, is that everybody sees CJ Stroud and they see Jane Daniels go out there and be stars in all these teams. And the same thing applies also with coaches too, but specifically with quarterbacks. We have impatience because we immediately think that everybody has to play at that level and has to be that good, but they're not. Most of these guys need to be slowly brought along because they're playing such a complicated position in an era of football where offensive line play is shit, where defenses and defensive linemen are getting bigger, faster, and stronger. It is stacked up against these guys playing in offenses where they don't know how to actually play the position, and they're required to make one read, and they're told to just go out there and be athletes. They need time to develop. And all I'm just trying to reiterate here is if you're Indianapolis, don't freaking trade the kid and don't think that we're going to draft somebody in this draft or the next draft. It is only going to prolong the problem when you have the opportunity to just wait. You're going to feel really stupid if he ends up in a different roster in a different situation and he ends up panning out. This is not the same as Bryce Young at all, because Anthony Richardson is an alien compared to Bryce Young. If they were standing next to each other, you wouldn't even expect that they played the same position. All I'm just trying to say is please give the kid a shot. I know I'm biased because I love and support him so much as a prospect, but there is a recoverability here for him.
I mean, if the goal is to win Super Bowls, you have to win the lottery. Unfortunately, that's how it's seeming to be more and more in today's NFL. Winning the lottery being finding a Patrick Mahomes, finding a Jaden Daniels, finding a Lamar, a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, somebody that can rise to the occasion, someone that can literally change the dynamic of your team, or else you are sitting here and you have to go through the hardest thing that there is in football, which is a full 53 perfect roster construction. We've seen glimpses of it with the Rams. We've seen glimpses of it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, wait, they also had Tom Brady. They're doing good with Baker, but does anybody have any delusions of grandeur that Baker Mayfield's going to win them a Super Bowl? I wouldn't say so. So you're going to have to either win the lottery or pitch a perfect game in the offseason. And a lot of these teams, I think, are going to keep on playing the lottery, which I would suggest they do. Keep doing it. There's a guy every class. Of course, there were a couple bad classes back to back, all the Trevor Lawrence classes and all that. But every year, for the most part, there's a quarterback that comes out that reshapes an entire team and an entire franchise. You got to be in it to win it. If we're praising teams for moving on from their first round picks when they know that it's not going to work in their system, so be it. I'm not saying they should be out of the NFL. I don't think it's necessarily up for Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis yet. Maybe it's not the fit for him. Maybe a different team would make better do with Anthony Richardson. But for right now, it's just not good. It's just really not good quarterback play.
All right, that's a good note to wrap us up on. We're going to be back on Wednesday with our Best Bets show, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're tuning on audio, hit the like button, subscribe if you're tuning on video. Talk to you folks later. Enjoy the rest of your week.